Thank you, everyone. So listen. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Why are you here tonight?
I'm actually here because I'm also making a project about democracy and especially how women's and gender rights is connected with our democratic values. So, what my project is, I'm from Estonia, so my project is mainly with European focus. So during the election, we are covering what it's actually what's happening here and how out of control things are.
Where are you from again?
Estonia.
Estonia. Where is that?
It's next to Russia
Okay.
and Finland.
So, how is American politics impacting what's happening in Russia?
It's a lot, like if Ukraine will fall, we will be next. Because Russia will invade NATO countries. The only thing is stopping is the understanding that NATO is still a functioning alliance,
Right.
whilst led by United States. And if this is going to be destabilized, then there's not the functional alliance anymore. The full-scale invasion of Ukraine will have never happened if there will not have been Trump 2016. So I feel like that's like a domino effect. You know,
What are they saying in Europe about our elections?
let me just put it this way: I'm looking for a house in Finland. So
Okay.
we're a lot. There's a lot of anxiety. I know people who are like doing, learning how to be a captain on a boat, to have some skills for some escape. I know plenty of people buying property in Spain just to kind of, there's a lot of anxiety and fear for the future. Like I have a son who's 4 years old, and I don't know if I can actually put him to school in an independent country in 3 years.
Wow. Okay. So, are you a journalist?
I'm a documentary filmmaker.
Documentary film.
I became a single mom in 2020, and that's the same year Ruth Bader Ginsburg died. And it's kind of was the hunch that they're gonna go after reproductive rights, but then in 1 month after there was complete ban in Poland for abortion. And then we all of a sudden, Estonian conservative government was supporting non-existing March for Life. So there's a lot of Christian movement that comes from United States that's influenced a lot and trying to bring the same, how can I say, like the same ideologies. But as we know, Europe is also a soil for hate.
Wow. I think she she summed it up, didn't she? Um, the Ukraine invasion would not have happened if Trump was not president. Um, they are on pins and needles over there with the election that's going to happen next week, and they have good reason. They know that those nations, the NATO nations, are under siege. If indeed Trump wins the election, Russia will then take over them as well. So, really good stuff right there. Greer on the ground last night at the Ellipse. And I tell you what, that was an amazing display last night. A record crowd for a political event, more than 75,000, perhaps 80,000 folks. Um, Descended on the place, the very place, the exact spot where on January 6, 2021, Donald Trump incited a mob to go to the Capitol. And we know what happened on January 6, 2021. Real quick, though, I'm mainstream media never ceases to amaze, never ceases to amaze. With all of this going on last night, and some of the networks, they were cutting back and forth to Trump's speech in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and back to the Ellipse. Um, and we know that they have rarely cut away to her stuff, to the vice president's speeches. But the other thing that's aggravating me this morning is this story: President Joe Biden lashing out at what happened at Madison Square Garden the other night with Trump supporters calling Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage or whatever. And they are focusing attention on Biden calling Trump supporters garbage. And they are really trying to hit hard. Mainstream media, they're hitting harder at Biden for rebuking that than they are at Trump and his minions for spewing such race hate. They have their methods. A big story, NBC News and other outlets, but I saw it on NBC first, so I'm gonna put a lot of blame on them right now. But that's just it's a distract. This is what they do. They distract. They distract. They distract. Because last night was not only historic, 75 to 80,000 people. They jammed. There was overflow. It looked like it was inauguration day. But more than that, and I sent, we have this email going, NMPA folks, and I responded by saying that is as presidential as I've seen anybody, perhaps since, or perhaps even before Barack Obama. She was extremely presidential last night. And I always talk about folks being presidential. Obama was very presidential. Um, uh, Biden is a very presidential guy too. Gives that presidential appearance at times, not as much as Obama, and not like Reagan. I always credit Reagan with just being, even though he was off his rocker. I thought Reagan presented as very presidential, but last night the vice president certainly presented as presidential. Not that she hadn't already been doing it, but this stood out. The way she spoke to the crowd, the way she interacted, the way her words, it really, really stood out. It was an amazing show of strength. She even separated herself from President Biden in a lot of ways. Um, but she was on her, you call it on your game, whatever. She brought an A+ game last night. Um, Contrasted totally with Trump, whose remarks, of course, continue to fuel distrust and even hatred of the democratic process. Her speech should have convinced skeptical folks that democracy is still a system worth protecting, according to several people. She said Donald Trump has spent a decade trying to keep the American people divided and afraid of each other. She says, I'm here tonight to say that that is not who we are. She pledged to chart a different path, as she said, from his division. She says she's going to seek common ground and common sense solutions to make your lives better. She says, even if you don't vote for me, I'm still going to be your president. I'm still going to do what's best, what I think is best for you in your best interests. She obviously went, I believe it was obvious that she destroyed any notes that her campaign may have given her to stick with, because she appeared 1000% herself. Didn't seem like anybody was feeding her lines. This seemed 100% pure Kamala Harris. Um, and they one example of what I'm saying is they've been wanting her to kind of stray a little bit away from the democracy message. Well, she did not. And a the latest New York Times Siena College poll did say that nearly 8 in 10 Americans feel democracy is under threat. So she, better than her campaign, read the tea leaves. And she made it clear to those 8 and 10 where the threat is coming from. She clearly articulated that Donald Trump poses a clear and present danger to the country's most fundamental democratic safeguards. Um, and when it came to the economy, she didn't shy away. She attacked that as well. She said how she talked about how 4 years of a Trump sales tax would be disastrous for ordinary people's bank accounts. She hammered Trump on trade, pointing out that his tariff policy would amount to a 20% national sales tax on everything you buy that is imported: clothes, food, toys, cell phones. She says the Trump sales tax would cost the average family nearly $4,000 more a year. And I know my girls they order stuff and they come from places in the Far East. And I mean, so I can feel it. And then she also talked about, I thought was very important. Sometimes when you talk to, and see, there was an issue, as we all know, a couple of weeks back with Barack Obama and his black men comments. But sometimes when you talk to or are speaking or trying to um, get a certain group to pay attention, you don't necessarily have to call them out, in this case, as black men or black people, because she talked about the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare. She didn't have to say black folks or this folks, but she made it clear that you will pay, and this is a quote from her, even more if Donald Trump finally gets his way and repeals the Affordable Care Act, which will throw tens of millions of Americans off their health insurance and take us back to when insurance companies had the power to deny people with pre-existing conditions. All right, something's going on here with my camera. I don't like that. What in the world? Something happened with my camera, Greer. Okay, folks, we're having some technical difficulties. I think it was Trump because I'm talking about him. All right, I think we got it. It's horrible. All right, here we go. Yeah, it went off for a moment there, but um, pre-existing conditions, as we talked about the other day, is something that we all, most of us, most people of color, we have. So she did an amazing job on that. She and it's interesting that theme of we're not going back, and she says he's trying to take us back, but she says we are not going back. Austin says the vice president was an A plus, and the Don Vict is an F minus. Yet the polls are close. RNG says post about election denialism, the false belief that elections are unfair and could be stolen increased by 317% on Telegram and 105% on Gab in October. And the thing about that, you heard the Republican congressman say, just give the North Carolina electoral votes to Trump. Don't even count the votes. The thing about that, RNG, as you know, if there's any stealing to be done, they're the ones that's going to be doing it. And the vice president also talked about Roe v. Wade last night. He says, I believe in the fundamental freedoms of Americans to make decisions about their own bodies. She says, I will fight to restore what Donald Trump and his hand selected Supreme Court justice took away from the women of America. She also, and going back to the democracy um, situation, she says it's inextricably connected democracy that is, to America's health and its economy. She said that accepting the future Trump proposals, his all of his proposals requires gutting America's economy and trampling fundamental human rights. She says our pursuit of freedom, our belief in fairness and decency, and our faith in a better future is at stake. So it was quite the night in Washington. And the thing about that, we talked about the crowd size being nearly 80,000 by one estimate, and folks around the ellipse. So who couldn't get in, who couldn't get into even to the overflow. So I mean, there's a school of thought that it could have been maybe another 20,000 more. Maybe it was 100,000. Who knows? But the original permit was just for 8,000 people. The original permit that they asked for was just for 8,000 people. They amended it obviously a few times as they saw the registrations for the event pick up. And believe it or not, I saw in our text chain a couple of times that there was a thought or at least a proposal not to let the press, the media in because of the crowd. How do you not let the media in? Come on. But what a night. And then the backdrop, there was a not so subtle message with the backdrop. Freedom, it said, in huge bold letters, and USA. And so you think about again January 6, 2021, in that same spot where a bunch of MAGA thugs wanted to, and the vice president said this too. And again, I thought the speech was just amazing because she was hitting on all these things, and it was nothing. Sometimes we lash out, and it's you're angry. You sound angry, and so your message doesn't necessarily get through the way you want it to. And that was not the case last night. She said, um, she called him out on those. Yeah, she called him out on his rhetoric. She called him out on how what he has at stake if he loses. She says he cares only about his future. And you know what she meant. Because if that man loses the election, there is a increasing chance that when he is sentenced next month, he's scheduled to be sentenced in New York on the 34 felony counts. He's going to prison. And up until recently, I felt like there's no way he's going to prison even if he loses. But I think that he has, when folks burn bridges, well, he torched any bridge possible and then lit it again. And then he attempts to repair the bridge. He lit it on fire again. I think he's going to prison if he loses. I think that you have prosecutors around the country, attorneys generals around the country who have had enough. The president has let it slip a couple of times, even in his speech yesterday to Latinos with the garbage comment. And the other day, where they say he didn't really mean that, but he says really in a hot mic moment that he needs to go to jail, talking about Trump. Everybody's fed up. And even some Republicans. And we've seen that. The vice president has attracted a growing number of Republicans um, in her support base. Orange G says the GOP steals, and in his opinion, their supporters burn those drop boxes. Yeah, it's going that those drop boxes, as we talked about yesterday, it's going to pose problems down the road. You can guarantee you can guarantee it. It's going to be a point of contention at some point. There's no question about it. But
the state of Pennsylvania. Allentown, where I'm at right now, where Trump is going to be tonight, Allentown is about 55% Latino. And out of that 55% Latino, about 45, 50%, it's Puerto Rican. And then you move to Reading, Pennsylvania, a city with a 69% Latino population, where about 70% it's Puerto Rican. This definitely is going to have an impact.
What did you think of Trump saying that he didn't hear the comments and doesn't know the comedian? What did you make of the response?
It definitely a missed opportunity. One of the things that I heard the most this morning from my audience, and we broadcast our morning show through 5 radio stations in the state. So we have about 250,000 Latinos that listen to us in the state of Pennsylvania. I specifically asked the audience, okay, what about if Trump today all of a sudden decides to apologize, all of a sudden decides to distance himself from the comedian? Would that be okay? Would you take that in consideration? Overwhelmingly, everybody was like, nope, too late. The train has left the station. He could have done it Sunday night, Monday, even this morning. And for him now to say, I don't know the comedian, I didn't even hear the joke, I'm pretty sure by now he heard the joke. I'm pretty sure by now he could have personally said something to the Puerto Rican community. One of the things that have impacted more.
yeah, nope. I mean that you can't put, as they say, the toothpaste back in the tube. You just can't. um, it's just what it is, and he is he has JD Vance out there, and other surrogates.
And what I heard from my audience was, wait a minute, he's from New York. He knows us. The Puerto Rican parade goes right in front of his building every year. Why would he allow somebody in New York City, a place with such a rich Puerto Rican history, with over 1 million Puerto Ricans, why would he allow someone in New York City to say something like that about Puerto Ricans?
It is what it is, as they say. Yeah, a person's always going to show you who they are, and he has continued to do that. He's continued to do that, and that's just where that is. So it's a week away now. A week away, with all of the polls showing very, very, very tight contest, and perhaps this is that so-called October surprise in a way that you would not have expected it. What happened at Madison Square Garden Sunday is still on the minds of many. Still, it's still very prevalent, and it can't be good. I mean, and what gets lost in that is the other uh, racist comments that were made, even about them having babies and why they have these babies or why they don't have these babies, et cetera, and comments on Black folks. None of that's none of that, none of that stuff is really talked about except for the comment on Puerto Rico, which is bad enough. Yeah, exactly, the watermelon, the carving the watermelon thing. And so you get to see exactly what they're doing and where they want to go. And the vice president, on the other hand, is saying we won't go back. And she said we won't go back to Jim Crow, the time that Byron Donalds apparently longs for. We won't go back to Reconstruction. We won't go back to slavery. David says, why expect any more from this man when he threw toilet paper at them? And that also rekindled those thoughts from Latinos when he did that, Puerto Rico in particular. Yeah, calling the vice president a derogatory name. And yeah, yeah, how about that? Greer mentions that. Remember, he tried to sell Puerto Rico. And see, these are the things that makes for him Madison Square Garden situation so much worse because you tend to not think about those things. They certainly have not been coming up as they should. But now you all you think about is all of the rhetoric, the debasing of Puerto Rico and Puerto Ricans, the hatred he's shown for the island. All that stuff comes back up. As with black folks with the Central Park Five, the Exonerated Five, the whole how he and his father were discriminating against black tenants, didn't want black tenants in their buildings. That stuff, it comes back up. David Youngblood says this man has no love for any minority, including his wife, who certainly doesn't seem to have any love for him, who certainly, after all these years, can't say Madison Square Garden, can't say a lot of things. I didn't when we played the clip the other day. Like, wait a minute. Don't want to say exactly what I was thinking. Not going to say exactly what I was thinking. But here we are, 1 week away. So it wouldn't want to be so refreshing when this election stuff is over with. But it's just not going to end Tuesday, right? Next Tuesday. It's just not going to end.
Who are famous.
Trump.
Our socialization has taught us to praise people who can get a lot of women and can say what they want and do what they want and have said, hey, that's the image of a real man. That's the image of a strong person. That's the image of a real leader who can just fire people at will. Now he's running for president. And a lot of people are like, wait, no, that's not it anymore. Right. But years of socialization have taught us that actually that is the image that America has put forward as the image of what you want to be, of the person that you want to lead. So it isn't just a black issue. We got a nationwide issue about the perception of hypermasculinity masquerading as leadership, when in fact it was our mamas and our grandmamas and our great-grandmamas who got us here.
Well, I tell you. I'm telling you, and the fro baby. And the fro baby. Listen. You know what's always interesting? We hear about the polls, and one of the things I know for sure, the quickest way to make a black man lie to you is walk up to him and ask him a question with a clipboard in your hand. So, I mean, it's just as ridiculous. And what I refuse to do is to let mainstream polling operations tell me what men I'm with every day think. Yeah. I refuse to believe that.
Hey, it's big deal. We talked the NAACP and Urban League, Reverend Al, and them a lot. Isn't it just profound at this moment in time that black men votes are coveted so much? Yes. I mean, I've never seen that in my life. And I think that's something, when I saw that Obama piece, I thought about how everybody is trying to get our vote.
But power concedes nothing without a demand. And I honestly believe this is one of the first time nationally, collectively, we decided we want to hear you, but there are things we have to have for that. Right. Exactly. It's transactional, which politics is supposed to be, right? Exactly. What was your reaction?
Yeah, he and DL is the first to tell you that he had to come to these type of realizations that he's talking about after researching, looking into stuff, not allowing someone to tell you something. And so DL is now like a leading surrogate for the Harris campaign. But that was a, a very, very interesting panel, a really great panel that they put together on the Black Men Summit on BET. And having been Crump on there, and I always forget the actor's name there. Um, but always, even though I forget his name, I always say he is one of the most unsung in his craft. That dude is simply a great, great actor, and I always forget his name. Michael Ealy, and just an amazing actor. Of course, you had Justin. Yeah, Sharice is watching. She, of course, Sharice, Michael Ealy, get it right. An amazing actor. And he always comes across in his interviews and settings like that as a very educated man, too. Always appreciate that about Michael Ealy. Thank you, Cerise. um, but we'll see. 'Cause we got a week to go, and it's going to be um, some uh, some contested votes, obviously. Trump, of course, has his Supreme Court cronies on standby, and Clarence Thomas is chomping at the bit to get involved in the election. No question about it. You can believe that. John Roberts and those guys. Give me a break. He knows what awaits him if this thing goes the other way. 'Cause, he's already said he's going to fire one of the first things he's going to do, other than being a dictator on day one, is he's going to fire the special counsel, and not only fire him, he wants to have him jailed. And we know that he has made it a point that he wants to jail everyone who's against him. So even if you said I disagree with you, and the vice president brought that out last night too. Simply disagreeing with him, he wants to lock you up. Just simply having a disagreement. And she said it. She said, you have disagreements with family members, friends, and other people. This guy, you disagree with him? Oh, it's gonna rain tomorrow. No, it's not. No, it is, dude. Oh, put him in jail. Cut his head off. That's pretty much how it's gonna go. I say he's making fun of it. He's exaggerating. Listen, mess around and find out. It's serious. It's serious. Why do you think even wealthy white folks like Mark Cuban and them say how critical this is? It's serious business. 75,000, 80,000 people last night. I can't get over the sights. Really can't. Amazing stuff last night. Well, wait a minute. I got a red button from Greer. Oh, okay. Uh, okay, so she's telling me about future programming. Oh boy, we have other news this morning as well, but certainly the top story is the eclipse last night, 75 to 80,000 people, maybe 100,000 people. Once they hit 50, you had to stop counting anyway. Come on. A former state trooper in Louisiana is not going to face jail time following the deadly arrest of Ronald Green, a black motorist. Corey York pleaded no contest to 8 counts of simple battery in connection to the May 2019 death of Green. He was sentenced to a $1,000 fine and 160 hours of community service and 1 year of supervised probation. He agreed to a plea deal after he was initially charged with negligent homicide and malfeasance in office. Prosecutors dropped the most serious charge of negligent homicide last month, despite a grand jury indicting him on that charge. At the time the negligent homicide charge was dropped, Union Parish, Louisiana District Attorney John Belton said that the evidence does not meet the beyond a reasonable doubt standard necessary to secure a conviction at trial. Now, wait a minute. Now, wait a minute. Um, the grand jury said it did. I see what's happening here again. So they allowed this guy to plead no contest to charges that gets him community service. $1,000. That's what that man's life, Mr. Green's life, was worth to this county in Louisiana. And that's pretty much sums up Project 2025 and a second Trump term, doesn't it? It was fun. This guy, he and his other fellow officers initially blamed Mr. Green's death on a car crash. So they immediately lied to cover it up. But then the body cam footage that was only uncovered after press investigations showed the police officers beating, tasing, and dragging Mr. Green on the ground. 5 officers, including York, were indicted by a grand jury in connection to the death. York was initially suspended without pay, but was later allowed to retire. And here's the other part of this nefarious plea deal. The no contest plea means that his conviction cannot be used against him in the wrongful death lawsuit that Mr. Green's family filed. Isn't that something? The beat goes on, as they say. And speaking of the beat going on, the World Series was extended last night. Just when it looked like it was going to be all over with in a sweep by the Los Angeles Dodgers, the New York Yankees fought back, scoring 11 runs in total, beating the Dodgers 11-4 and extending to a 5th game the 2024 World Series. The Dodgers had taken a commanding 3-0 lead in the series. And their first baseman, Freddie Freeman, continues to make his case for series MVP, hitting another 2-run homer last night. He has homered in every game of the series, something that has never been done in World Series history. One note about that, though, one of the things that was so alarming last night, it was a foul ball hit down the right field line, and Dodger superstar outfielder Mookie Betts went over by the wall and made the catch. And 2 fans grabbed each of his arms, snatching the ball and trying to take his glove from him, literally. It was you've never seen that before. One fan was ejected from the stadium. They said he will be banned for life. But this was an all-out assault. Grabbed him by his arm. Yankee fans, what is wrong with you? Grabbed him by his arm and just twisting his wrist, trying to take his glove and the ball, while another fan grabbed his other arm. And that fan who grabbed the other arm didn't appear to have been punished, or ejected, or anything. Somehow the stadium security missed that. When they have a huge video board up there that showed you the whole play. That is the worst display of fan activity I've ever seen. I've never seen that before. I mean, I've seen fans throw stuff on the field. We've seen, I'm talking just strictly baseball, because we know in basketball the whole Malice at the Palace thing with Ron Artest. But and that wasn't, Ron Artest was, listen, I say to this day he was defending himself, and that's I did not blame him. Those fans in Detroit, and I know Isaiah Thomas watches this program sometimes, and but Isaiah has to recognize that those fans in Detroit ignited that Malice at the Palace, and were totally out of line. But what happened at Yankee Stadium last night? I mean, I've seen fans throw stuff on the field, which is atrocious. But I've never seen anything like this before. I remember way back in 1973. Back in 1973, Pete Rose got into a fight during the National League Championship Series with the New York Mets' Bud Harrelson, and when he went out to left field, they were throwing like batteries at him. But here is the one and only, the RNG Swag Sports. What's going on, man?
Hey, good morning to you and your followers and your listeners, man. I was glad that you added me. That Ronald Green situation really touches me. For y'all do not know, his mother doing Essence Fest was on the corner of Bourbon and Canal, asking people to help her support justice for her son. Stacey, I've only been on this earth 49 years. I've never seen a man lynched on video like this. And for all 5 defendants not to spend a day in prison, where's the justice for this family?
And also the taking away the ability to use this in the wrongful death lawsuit. It really, that, man, RNG, that you can't get any lower than that. They've already, like you said, no jail time. But then to give him this no contest deal, that means that the wrongful death, it can't be used against him in the law and the suit.
The district attorney is a black man of Union Parish. He's been playing I don't want to talk to the media ever since this deal was made. If you would have seen the mother in court begging the judge not to accept this deal, that strikes me in a whole different type of tone. I hate to see a mother grieving, first of all.
Right.
And I hate to see a black mother grieving over her son's death when you get a sweetheart deal like this. The district attorney from Union Parish, John, you are a coward. You are scared to go against white people in power. Now, you begged us for your vote to be the attorney general for Louisiana. This is one of the reasons why you lost, sir. You're afraid to go after the real criminals. At first, he was so scared, Stacey, he didn't even want to bring charges. They tried to get a special prosecutor. The special prosecutor that they have now, Stacey, you know he's been fired before for being a racist. Mm-hmm. He's had Confederate flags, Civil War stuff. And I'm not letting John Bell Edwards off the hook. That was the governor at the time.
The governor.
John Bell Edwards, along with the governor that we have now, Jeff Landry, they all sat around and watched this video way before the Associated Press got this. They sat there and figured out, how can we cover this up, because we don't want the state to be sued. And out, they still let all 5 officers, and the officer that killed himself, Hollingsworth, you realize that his family, not only did they get the life insurance policy, but he died on active duty as a state trooper. So they get all kinds of state benefits. I'm talking from kids going to college to his last paycheck. And if I'm not mistaken, I may be wrong, I don't believe they can sue his estate either. I'm talking about the Greens family. So
right.
And Stacey, to put this in context, this happened before George Floyd was lynched.
Right, 2019
So-
this happened.
Yeah. So John Bell Edwards said it was the Justice Department that told him not to say anything about it. When does the DOJ controls your state? Now the DOJ is supposed to be doing investigation, but the people that are doing this investigation, Stacey, I found out, they are holdovers from the Trump administration. That's why this case has been dragging on for going on 5-6 years. So nothing is going to be done. I feel sorry for that family. There's nothing I can do personally besides bring the story to shows like to the Black press. Because all these other stations that are covering this stuff, nobody is telling you what I'm telling you now about this special prosecutor, about John Bell Edwards watching this video. Jeff Landry seen this video. Jeff Landry was the attorney general. Why didn't he bring charges?
You know, he says that the district attorney claimed that this couldn't be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Yet there's a grand jury indicted these guys.
Why
I've
bring
not seen
charges?
that before.
Why bring charges to be having somebody indicted on and then say, oh, well, we're not going to do that because we can't prove this?
Why
You
go
what-
to a grand jury?
Well, exactly. You wasting, not only you wasting our time, you playing in the faces of their family members. This man died saying, I'm your brother. Corey York, the guy that just got that sweetheart deal, he's on videotape dragging this man by his shackles. That means he had this man feet in the air, dragging him, face in the ground, cussing him out, telling him this and that. One of the officers is like, yeah, you like this, yeah. It's so much information on here. Like I said, I've never in my life seen somebody lynched in my life. So where do we go from here? The only thing that you can do is get the DOJ to be involved and for civil rights violations.
Well, and
you gotta
there it is, right there, the DOJ, right? And so once again, it's so important that folks understand when we talk about Project 2025, when we talk about a second Trump administration, they have read the documents, but not only read the documents, but Trump has voiced this. They are going to decimate, take away the Civil Rights Division of the DOJ, which means that they won't even look at cases like this, which means that these cases will now be as legal as anything. These officers will be able to, as Oren G says, drag a black man down the road, lynch him, and nothing will happen. There will be no more Christian Clark to say, hey, we're going to do something about this. In fact, Oren G, they said that they will use the DOJ to investigate civil rights violations against white men.
Against white men. You got to remember, if it wasn't for Christian Clark and the DOJ, what happened in Mississippi, what happened in Georgia with Ahmaud Arbery, what happened in Louisville with Breonna Taylor, a lot of those cases, those people would have walked away, especially in Mississippi, right there in Rankin County. That's the state right next to us. The state attorney general, Lynn Finch, had no investigation going into the Goon Squad. If it wasn't for the DOJ, and if you don't get out and vote for Kamala Harris, I'm telling you now, everybody that's working in the DOJ right now, day one, Donald Trump has fired them. They gone. So all these investigations into Ronald Green, into the Goon Squad, even the Breonna Taylor case, all this stuff is still being investigated. Those cases would stop automatically. People better wake up. Because what I seen yesterday, that's how you lynch somebody and 5 people on camera and you get away. Nobody, I'm saying this again, nobody is going to prison for killing a man on videotape.
Yeah.
Some of those people that was involved, Stacey, they let them retire.
Yeah.
They retired with
including
full benefits.
including this officer we were talking about.
Where York retired with full benefits. Benefits can't be touched. Wrongful death lawsuit. Now you're gonna string them through the court for another 2 or 3 years, or even probably longer than that. And how things are going, you might not get nothing out of them. One
No,
of the
because
reasons
as you articulated very well, your retirement benefits cannot be touched. Your
Mhm.
pension cannot be touched in a lawsuit, in a civil lawsuit.
Yep.
And
And
I mean, we learned that with O.J. Simpson.
yeah,
You know, he was living. They kept trying to come after him, the Goldman family, all his life after that, and you know, he's living on 30,000 a month pension and was not able. They were not able to touch it. But this, look at that family, RNG.
just beautiful people. Look at it. This man is telling them folks, "I'm your brother." You know, what angers me the most is if it's George Floyd or if it's Ronald Green. These black men are begging, and the more you beg, the more pain they inflict into you. That's why I understand when some people, and I don't agree with it, some people will go out fighting a hail of bullets or whatever it may be. Because you look at this, trust me, think about Ahmaud Arbery. They videotaped that man's killing and they showed it. They showed it to their friends as a trophy. You don't think that these officers showing this body camera as a trophy? Look at him begging. Look, watch me grab it. Watch me. They do stuff like this, and nobody hears our cries until something happens, and then all of a sudden, we're the thugs and we're the animals. How savage can you be to drag a man while he's shackled, and the man is crying to you, telling you, "I'm your brother"? That's very, very disturbing to see. But we got too many people that are more worried about getting $300-400 on their paycheck or a stimmy from Donald Trump. You better realize you ride through Union Parish, Louisiana. That's the northeast corner on Interstate 20. You ride through there, those same cops, Troop, I think it's Troop F. I mean, if I get the troop wrong, I'm sorry, but all of them are crooked in my opinion. But Troop F, they will do the same thing to you. They've gotten away with it. They know how to get away with it now. All we got to do is get the right people to say, "I'm not going to investigate," or "we're going to string the investigation out." I guarantee you, they told John Belton, "You the district attorney. You already elected. You safe here. You ain't got to worry about that. Don't worry about the family. Let them talk. It'll all go away." And that's what they do.
Yeah, still another of these cases. This is, folks, this is what you have to look forward to with Project 2025 and a potential Trump Vance administration. Power 96, man, we always appreciate you. We're going to talk some more about this and other topics soon. We got to have you back. And again, it's Wednesday, so the RNG Swag Sports is on YouTube tonight. So check him out. I don't know what he's going to be cooking, but I'm sure he's going to be cooking something. And so we got to tune in. And thank you all for watching. Let it be known. We'll see you again tomorrow.